CTV News at 5 with Hudson Mack.
Now to politics. In a remarkable day at the BC Legislature, Premier Christy Clark has issued an apology and has announced she is launching a review confirming that there was indeed a Liberal plan to use government resources to try to win ethnic votes for the Liberals in May's election. The plan was revealed in a leaked document written by Clark's Deputy Chief of Staff and sent to the personal email addresses of 8 people. It proposed using provincial resources to try to woo ethnic voters through the Multiculturalism Ministry. Clark says that document did not realize that there are lines that cannot be crossed when conducting outreach politically. She says some recommendations in it are entirely inappropriate, and today she apologized.
I would never say something like that, because righting historical wrongs is the right thing to do. It is the right thing to do, regardless of the politics of it. And so, that I would never characterize it that way.
I thought it was wrong. I thought the language in it was wrong, and I felt it was important that we immediately apologize. Sometimes you'll get people working on a project within government that you don't know all the details about, and this could be the case in this particular case, but this is just not acceptable.
Clark says her deputy minister has been appointed to review the memo to make sure that no government money or resources were used inappropriately. Opposition House Leader John Horgan says that's just not good enough. He says it needs to be investigated by someone not so close to the Premier.
Well, first of all, I reject the notion of blurring lines. These are violations of the Public Service Act. That's not a blurred line. That's a violation of a statute in the province of British Columbia. And I would argue that that being the case, Mr. Dybel is out of his depth. And as much as I respect John, and I truly do, I've known him for 20 years, he's not the right person, or he's not in the right place to make a determination on the people that he works with in the Premier's office. It's inappropriate.
The memo was leaked to the NDP, which released it yesterday. The memo originated in the Premier's office just over a year ago. Meantime, BC's Auditor General is saying that the U.S.-based company that's been hired by the province to run the medical services plan and pharmacare has failed to meet expectations. John Doyle audited the $324 million contract with Maximus and says it has not delivered the promised results and has potential security holes. The government signed the 10-year contract with Maximus in 2004. Since then, the province has fined the company several times for violating the requirements of the contract. Doyle's report also says key tools to flag privacy breaches are not in place, and those breaches could be happening without the Health Ministry knowing. He says the government needs to know and needs to make the public aware of what's being achieved and at what price. A new report says the federal government has not set aside enough money to build new supply ships for the Royal Canadian Navy. It's expected to cost just over $4 billion to replace HMCS Protector on the west coast and HMCS Preserver in the east. The federal government has only budgeted $2.6 billion. Seaspan Marine is the BC shipyard awarded the contract to build the replacement ships. Seaspan says it's not worried. It was awarded an $8 billion contract to build 7 vessels, including those 2 supply ships and 3 fisheries vessels. Emergency responders say that speed was a factor in a crash on the Malahat last night, but a median on the highway is being credited with saving the lives of the people in the car. The crash happened a couple of kilometers north of Goldstream Park. RCMP say a BMW was traveling southbound when the driver came around a corner, lost control, then slammed into the median.
It slid off the road, hit the retaining wall, the new divider wall that's placed up in the center, resulting in substantial damage to the vehicle. Fortunately, there's no real injuries to any of the driver or the 2 passengers. Probably could have been a lot worse if the median was there. That car would have been into the other lane, and who knows what untold damage could have resulted from that.
In this case, the car hit the median at high speed and then rode the median down, and it stopped it from crossing the center line and potentially tagging another car coming up the hill.
It's what Malahat safety advocates have been saying. Medians do save lives. Police did issue a ticket for driving without due care and attention. Bishops from across Western Canada gathered at St. Joseph's Basilica in Edmonton today, where they prayed for the Pope and for the cardinal electors. The Mass began at noon, Alberta time, to match the time in Rome when the papacy officially ended. The Catholics who attended say they were sad that Pope Benedict is stepping down, but they have also gathered to celebrate his 8 years leading the Church. Representing the Diocese of Victoria was Bishop Richard Gagnon.
I think what people are realizing at this point is that the Holy Spirit is going to assist the church in finding the person it needs for the challenges it faces today, whether that person be from outside of Europe or within Europe. So it could be a very surprising result.
Pope Benedict announced his intention to step down on the 11th of this month. He is the first pope to resign in about 600 years. The RRSP deadline is looming, and there's a new poll out that shows most Canadians are procrastinating. You have until midnight tomorrow night to contribute to your registered retirement savings plan and to claim it as a deduction in your 2012 taxes. The new Harris Decima poll suggests half of the people who will put money away will do it in the last 48 hours before that March 1st deadline. The poll also says younger Canadians are the ones who are procrastinating. The wolf that has conservation officers looking on Discovery Island since last summer is going to stay there, at least for the foreseeable future. Conservation officers have given up trying to lure the wolf, at least for the time being, and BC Parks has now removed the traps that have been set up on Discovery. Video provided by the conservation officers shows the wolf's there roaming the island. The area supervisor says the animal appears to be healthy, not showing any unusual behavior, and it looks stable enough to be left alone for now. Discovery Island will remain closed until BC Parks has a chance to set up signs and warn you how to behave around wildlife and to properly store food if you're there. Parks staff hopes education and setting up food containers on the island will prevent people from having a dangerous encounter with the wild animal. News from the courts late this afternoon. Former Bear Mountain CEO Len Barry has been acquitted of charges of failing to file tax returns. The verdict came down in the last hour or so after a final defense witness took the stand. CTV's Stephanie Sherlock was in court. She joins us now with more. Stephanie.
Hudson, the defense witness that took the stand this morning is the current chief accounting officer for Bear Mountain Holdings. He spoke about a meeting he attended in 2010 with Len Barry and the CRA. At that time, he was just an accounting assistant. He testified that in that meeting, Len Barry made it clear that he would not be filing the returns in question because he no longer had the authority to do so. Barry's lawyer went further to say his client was court-ordered to stay out of all Bear Mountain business. The judge agreed that no receiver would allow an ousted CEO access to financial records or any records for that matter. She noted in her oral decision that sorting out the tax implications of a group of companies in receivership was a complex legal matter, and that despite that, the CRA didn't seek legal advice, and she found that to be just one of the issues that led her to acquit.
The decision, speaks for itself. I'm not going to, say what the CRA didn't do. What the judge really found was, there was a lot of things happening up at Bear Mountain, which prevented Mr. Barry from being able to comply with the requirements. So he couldn't do anything. He was not able to access anything up on the mountain. And that's really what happened.
The judge felt that Barry made a reasonable, although mistaken, assumption that Bear Mountain and its new controlling entities would file those returns. And it was a long day in court for Barry. After the verdict, he continued to be elusive, ducking media outside the courtroom, going to great lengths to do so. He indicated to Reporters Inside, though, that he was happy with the decision and that he was heading out of town tonight to get on with his life.
All right, Stephanie Sherlock reporting. Stephanie, thanks.
You're welcome.
Well, if you don't have time to go away for a vacation but would like to escape the rain, there are many attractions around Greater Victoria inviting you to be a tourist in your own hometown this weekend. This year's edition of Tourist in Your Own Hometown kicked off today at noon. The purchase of a $10 booklet will get you access to all kinds of deals all over town for you and your family. This year's attractions include the Shaw Ocean Discovery Center, Butchart Gardens, the Butterfly Gardens, tea at the Fairmont Empress, and many more.
In the last 2 years, we've seen a resurgence of this program, and it really is because of the generosity of our venues and the public support. We've served over 3 generations of Victoria residents on Be a Tourist in Your Own Hometown.
One of this year's newest attractions that Victoria hopes to make a big splash in April is Henrietta Hippo, also known as the bus that floats. It was at today's launch as a preview of what you can look forward to this spring. Henrietta Hippo hopes to hit the water and the road sometime in April. Hawks will spend at least 3 more years patrolling the sky over Nanaimo's landfill. They've been on the job at the landfill since 2010, scaring away the seagulls. The regional district has now signed a 3-year contract to continue the hawk service at a cost of $600,000. Landfill employees say before the hawks came in, As many as 3,000 gulls would descend on the area every day, but that number, thanks to these guys, has been reduced to just a few hundred.
Just their presence is 99% of the time all that it takes. Like, we don't actively try to hunt anything up here. Just them flying around, going into the trees, floating all over the place, going up top and stuff. Just them flying in the air, following us is more than enough.
The hawks and their handlers are at the Nanaimo landfill from open to close 7 days a week. RCMP and Nanaimo are asking for your help to find 2 precious pieces of First Nations art. They went missing from a home in Cobble Hill when the owner was on holidays. The Dorset paintings depict Arctic scenes and are valued at several $1,000s apiece. The owner came home in mid-January and found the pieces were gone, but there was no sign of forced entry. Nothing else was taken. If you've seen them, you know someone trying to sell them, or have any information, you're asked to contact Nanaimo RCMP or Crime Stoppers. Parksville's fire department is looking for a few good men and a few good women, too. The department relies heavily on its volunteers and needs more of them. To take part, you need to be 19 years old or older and have a valid driver's license and be in good health and physical fitness. Volunteering also requires long hours of training.
The camaraderie and the group atmosphere here is unlike most groups. I think people really like that aspect. I think for a lot of people, it's the hobby, it's the thing they can do away from work and away from home that they really enjoy doing.
The Parksville Fire Department is looking for about a half a dozen volunteers this year. If you're interested and you'd like to find out more, visit pvfd.ca. Well, grade 10 students in Nanaimo are getting a taste of post-secondary life with a visit to Vancouver Island University. Over the past 3 days, 750 students have taken part in Discovery Days. Today they signed up for classes to see what programs might spark their interest. VIU students and staff and faculty are also there to share their experience.
They're looking towards grade 11, what classes they might want to be taking. So it gives them an opportunity to really get excited about the prospects of post-secondary and maybe look at what they could be doing for a future career goal or future education opportunities.
So having opportunities like this is really helpful to kind of get them comfortable in a university setting and open them up to different opportunities that we have here that they might have not known about either way.
The Discovery Days program has been running for more than a decade now. VIU offers a similar program in the fall for students in grade 12. Well, Vancouver Island Hollywood starlet Kim Cattrall is being recognized for her body of work by the inaugural Canadian Screen Awards. The Comox Valley-raised actress will receive a special prize in Toronto tonight for her outstanding artistic contribution to film and television. Cattrall is best known, of course, for her role as Samantha in Sex and the City. The new Canadian Screen Awards honor Canada's best TV and film work and replace the Genie and Gemini Awards.